Newark police make a big drug bust. The Bluecoats were honored for making their first ever title, and violence rocks the Christiana Mall. Hello, I'm Lauren Wilson. We'll have those stories and more coming up. You're watching DETV News. Hello, topping the news is the chaos caused at the Christiana Mall after gunshots ran out in the food court around 6:45 Saturday night. What followed was worse. 3 males were shot and taken to the hospital. 5 other innocent bystanders were injured while fleeing the scene, along with hundreds, if not thousands, of people. Police responded to the mall within minutes as panicked shoppers ran for cover. The mall was evacuated, but some people were forced to remain in place, hiding in areas until police were certain that the scene was safe. Here's what we know. 3 males began to physically assault an 18-year-old victim. 2 of the victim's friends began fighting with the suspects. During that fight, one suspect took a handgun from his waistband and began firing multiple rounds. The 18-year-old victim and his 16-year-old friend were both struck by 3 rounds. The suspects, seen here in this surveillance video, are described as black males in their late teens, all wearing black clothing. The victims were first listed in critical condition, but are now said to be stable. Thankfully, the other 5 people who were injured while running for safety were not seriously hurt. Delaware State Police are interviewing several people of interest and want to hear from you if you have any details that could lead to an arrest. Call Crime Stoppers at 1-800-847-3333. Your tip could lead to a reward. In the meantime, a nonprofit group called Stop the Violence Prayer Chain planned a gathering at the mall not far from where the shooting occurred, as the police investigation continues. In other news, Newark police say an investigation about a suspected drug sales at Liberty Square Apartments resulted in an arrest. 31-year-old Stephen Black was taken into custody with a search warrant in hand. Investigators found 9 handguns, 50 pounds of marijuana, and other drug-related items, including a digital scale and packaging materials, all of which indicated the confiscated items were not for legal personal use. Do you have any expired prescription drugs around the house? The Wilmington Police Department will participate in National Prescription Drug Take-Back Day on April 22nd. Police will collect any unneeded and expired meds in front of Frawley Stadium from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. According to the Drug Enforcement Administration, holding on to those unwanted drugs opens the door for drug misuse and even addiction. The DEA says the drugs pose a public health threat that can also lead to accidental poisoning. If you can't make it on the 22nd, no worries. Wilmington Police have a permanent collection bin located in the lobby of its headquarters, located at 300 North Walnut Street. In news from the Dover Capitol, it looks like Republican lawmakers are planning to go up against Governor John Carney. The GOP legislators are circulating 2 bills aimed at blocking Carney's plan to eliminate the sale of gas-powered vehicles in Delaware over the next 12 years. It's all part of Carney's climate action plan. It would call for car makers to gradually start delivering zero-emission vehicles to dealerships. A total ban on gas-powered vehicles is slated for the year 2035. Similar legislation is already in place in Maryland, New Jersey, Virginia, and New York. Republican critics argue the mandate will limit consumer choice, force people to buy more expensive electric vehicles, and will have little impact on the environment. In other news from Dover, the governor recognized Autism Acceptance and Inclusion Month with special guests surrounding him. The chief executive signed a proclamation marking the occasion. This year is also Delaware Autism's 25th anniversary. The organization helps raise acceptance and awareness of the autism spectrum disorder in Delaware. And speaking about awareness, many companies, organizations, and even school districts have been on an intentional journey to raise awareness about racial equity and inclusion. In the Colonial School District, that journey is called Changing the Odds. It includes community gatherings with guest speakers. Take a look. It was a round of applause not only for this, the first Community Equity Summit sponsored by the district, but for the speaker, Marissa Gatson, a 2012 graduate of William Penn, who is now the Executive Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at Ivy League Georgetown University.
What's said here stays here, but what's learned here leaves here. Right? So I want you all to take this information and please go out and share it, share your experience. But any personal stories, anybody's individual identifiers, leave those here.
Those ground rules led to frank and open conversations prompted by Gatson's questions.
How would we define equity?
And I just thrown in this.
Participants held one-on-one thought exchanges as Gatson dug deeper with more questions and requests for shared experiences about inclusion, equity, and privileges that some have while others do not.
Being told you have privilege is not meant to make you feel guilty. It's not meant to make you feel bad about yourself. It actually can be your superpower if you use it that way. Privilege is only bad when you choose to use it in the wrong way.
I have the privilege of an education and all the things that go with that. I always think about the folks who don't and how horrible that must be.
And then for her to come back here and inspire us to do better, to think better, to change the odds, to bring about the outcomes we were really hoping for, I think that there's something special about that.
And everyone left the summit with a special takeaway.
My major takeaway is just making sure that you stay as inclusive as you can and stay as diverse as you can with the people that are around you at all times.
My biggest takeaway from the night will be more just kind of think about how I can use my influence to actually reach back and help other people. They may not have the influence, but I can actually use my influence to actually give them opportunities.
Definitely knowing what my privilege is and knowing how that affects it and how I can use it for much better, and going into the future when I get into college or when I graduate, how when I go out into the world I can take that and do it for something good and change something in the world.
The public is invited to the next speaker series. Black Boy Mattering is the topic to be discussed by the University of Delaware's Roderick Carey on May 2nd at 6 p.m. The event will be held at William Penn High School, located at 713 East Basin Road in Newcastle. And finally, a little noteworthy sports update. The Blue Coats were honored by the governor after winning the franchise's first title. It happened on April 6th when the G League team beat the Rio Grande Valley Vipers 2-0 in a best-of-3 final series. Mac McClung, who plays for the Blue Coats and the 76ers, is the NBA's reigning slam dunk champion. He made 20 points, 9 rebounds, and 9 assists in the Sixers' final regular season game. That young man has a bright future ahead of him, and it all began right here in Wilmington as a player for the Blue Coats. That's it for this edition of DETV News. Be sure to watch us on all social media platforms and on Comcast Channel 28. I'm Lauren Wilson. Stay well, and we'll see you next time.